Hi there, my name's Michelle Hoff. I'm a conference interpreter and a member of AIB, which is the Association of Interpreters of Barcelona. I've also been teaching interpreting at the Conference Interpreting Master's degree at the University of La Laguna. I've been involved with the master's course for the past 10 years now. Now, what I wanted to talk to you about today was some of the misconceptions that people have about training to become an interpreter. There's a lot of things that people believe about interpreting and about interpreter training which aren't actually true. The first myth, if you like, about this is that anyone can be an interpreter. Some people seem to think that if you speak a couple of languages, well, that's essentially all you need, that you can become a professional interpreter. I'm not too sure why this myth exists. It might have something to do with the fact that when you see a good interpreter in action, it all just looks so effortless. They just listen to a speech and turn around and then interpret the speech into another language. And so maybe this gives people the impression that it's a very easy thing to do, that you don't need to learn how to do it or be trained in it in any way. But this is false, I can assure you. It's almost the same as saying that anybody who can use a thermometer can be a doctor, or anybody who owns a pair of skis could be a ski jumper. I mean, it is true that if you speak a few languages, you could potentially become an interpreter. But speaking language is not all. You really have to learn the skills, and you have to learn them in an official course setting. There's another myth about interpreting, which runs that interpreters are born, not made. In other words, you have to have there's some sort of special knack for interpreting, and it's not something that can be taught in any way. It is true to a certain degree that there are certain character traits which will help people become interpreters. However, having these traits doesn't automatically make them good interpreters. Maybe I'll just list a few of them now so you have an idea what it is I'm talking about. For instance, a good interpreter really has to be a good communicator. They have to know how to get a message across. They also have to have a very quick mind, very well organized mind. They have to have the ability to concentrate and to focus in stressful situations, because an interpreter's life really is just one stressful situation after the next. They have to have what I would call openness or intellectual curiosity, to know a lot about the world, but also be willing to learn more about the world every day, because that's also part of an interpreter's job. They have to be able to adapt to new situations, again, because interpreters face different things every day on the job. Also, because interpreters always work, or almost always work in a team, they need to be team players. And it also helps if they're a people person, extroverts. Again, just to facilitate communication in a team of interpreters. And finally, very importantly, interpreters need to have personal integrity. This is a job that bears a lot of responsibility, and interpreters need to be able to deal with that. However, even having all of these different inborn traits that I've just listed for you won't automatically make you an interpreter. In the 10 years that I've been training interpreters here at the University of La Laguna, I've seen plenty of new students come in onto the course with all of these things that I've just listed, and yet still not come out interpreters at the end of the year. The fact is, if you don't really buckle down and apply yourself in order to learn how to interpret, you simply won't make it. And that brings me to my third myth that I wanted to talk to you about, and that is the idea, it's a strange idea that some people have, that interpreting can't be taught. I have to say that this one's a bit mystifying for me, because I think pretty much everybody would agree that any other profession or skill is something that needs to be taught. You want to build a skyscraper? Go and study architecture. You want to run a multinational company? Sign up for an MBA. You want to become a conference interpreter? Go take a course in interpreting. It really is as simple as that. I think maybe the idea behind this whole myth that interpreting is something that can't be taught is the fact that it all happens so quickly inside an interpreter's head that people probably think that the whole process can't be analyzed in a way that it can be taught and learned. I mean, really, when you watch an interpreter working, what do you see? You'll hear some words coming in one language, you'll probably see them concentrating, and then you'll listen to them giving the interpretation in another language. And to lay people, it probably seems such a mystifying process that's going on in that interpreter's head that it's probably considered impossible to actually teach. Well, again, I'm pleased to say that that myth is also false. There's actually a very large body of research that has looked into the theory of interpretation over the past several decades, which has been able to analyze what it is that goes on in an interpreter's head during the interpreting process, that has been able to break down the whole interpreting process into its constituent parts. And it is these parts, these individual skills, which are taught over the course of an interpreting degree. So again, interpreting is definitely something that can be taught. Now there's really one final myth that I wanted to talk about, which has to do with interpreter training courses. And that is that people tend to believe, or aspiring interpreting students tend to believe, that all interpreting courses are created equal. They think, once they've been convinced that it's worthwhile for them to train to become an interpreter, they tend to think that they can just sign up for any old interpreting course and that will be enough. Well, I would like to make it quite clear that that's not true either. The interpreting courses available right now on the market are extremely different. They vary widely in terms of quality and in terms of what a student can expect to learn. The IEC, which is the International Association of Conference Interpreters, has actually established a set of best practices that interpreting courses should follow if they want to ensure the best possible quality training to its students. This information on the best practices from IEC and also other information that's useful for student interpreters can all be found on IEB's website, which is www.iebnet.com. There we have a whole section for student interpreters telling them a little bit about what sort of course they should be looking for, what other sort of things they should be keeping in mind as they aspire to become a conference interpreter. So, I hope that you've learned something from this little video about the different myths of conference interpreting and training to become a conference interpreter. And I certainly hope to see any of you who are aspiring interpreters down at the University of La Laguna in future.